It's on. Oh, shit. All right, you introduce this. This is your segment. I'm giving you the spotlight on my show. So what the hell?
Okay. Yeah, I'm Liam. I just think of me as your resident Australian at this point.
Yes.
I want to open. How the fuck did Trump not get impeached? How?
Well, we have a terrorist organization in government here in the United States. So that's part number one. Part number two, Americans are stupid. So they voted for a terrorist organization.
I'll believe it, yeah. My next thing was, I was going to talk about my state. So when we left off last, my premier, Anastasia Palaszczuk, boss, she got elected for a third term. Now, I found this interesting because, like, I mentioned this before, but all of the boomers, including my dad, who was a Liberal voter before, he was like, no, I think Anastasia's done a good job keeping the borders shut so we don't spread the COVID. And this was further brought into practice when very, very recently we had a new strain of COVID actually make its way here, a highly infectious one.
Which
So
one
what
is
does
that?
Anastasia do? The UK one?
Right?
So what does Anastasia do? Holds an emergency meeting, says, okay, we need to lock the fuck down. We had a 3-day lockdown, only can go out if you need something urgent. Masks are mandatory, fucking hand sanitizer everywhere, the works. And because Queenslanders did the right thing, we eased restrictions after the 3rd day and only had 10 more days of, like, semi-lockdown. And I think this was interesting because I went to the gym during those lockdowns, or the semi-lockdown, and the rule was you need to wear a mask, but if your heart rate went up, you were legally allowed to take it off, so you could breathe better. I mean, It makes sense. But yeah, I just found that interesting. So I mean, what do you take of that? I mean, I think my premier did a fucking insane job.
I mean, really the biggest deal is to make sure that this virus does not get inside the border. At that point, really, the masks and everything are just a suggestion because the virus is not in the border, and therefore, it's not that big of a deal. Whereas in the United States, we have open borders out the wazoo. All those people that spent, years and years in the Republican Party, open borders. Oh, the borders are going to be open. When it comes to the virus, they're open, baby. They're open for business.
Yeah, I remember that specifically because the opposition leader to Anastasia, I mentioned this, tried to open the border like 70 times or something, and she's just like, we need to get Queensland working again. And yes, see how well that went for you anyway. But, yeah, I mean, that's good because she, like, once this UK strain came in, we just contained it in hotel quarantine, and everything got back under control and back to normal.
That sounds pretty good. All right, so real quick, I want you to introduce what this because people are probably wondering what this like bizarre.
I was about.
Yeah, there's something going on.
That was my next topic. So that was my next topic. So, how do I introduce this guy? Friendly Geordies does a lot of political stuff.
Sure.
But he did an interview with New South Wales Labor leader Jodie McKay. Jodie McKay she doesn't exactly get smear campaigned, but nobody ever reports on her. And when they do, they just smear her. And this is going to be a good example of it.
Some of the station
So I'm playing
of
the video now.
indignation across some of the nation.
Could you translate this to English for me?
Tiny clip
2GB is basically... it's a radio station, and it's shit. It's just propaganda for the Liberal Party at this point.
Sure.
But anyway, so they played a tiny segment of his interview with Jodie McKay. That's the Labour leader.
Right.
And they only played a tiny section of it and cut out 40 minutes of facts and just slammed Jodie McKay.
Bit of my interview.
Like what do you think of that? That's just fucked, right?
Sure. So who's they? Like TV networks? The media.
2GB,
okay.
7 News, all of it.
All
but
right.
it gets explained more. Just if you need any translation, let me know.
Their new and not improved breakfast show, now featuring public intellectual Ben Ford.
I hate this guy, by the way. He blocked me on Twitter when
Your free speech has been censored. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ben
So,
Fordham here.
what is this guy's smile? What is that? What is going on there? Is he okay? Because that looks like a little psychopathic, you know?
I don't know, but I tweeted at him and just said, hey, can you stop bootlicking corruption and actually interview Jody McKay rather than making allegations? And then he blocked me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Censored
Like,
in the battlefield of ideas?
But whatever. I'll tell you something funny about this guy. He accidentally tweeted porn. Accidentally. He
Of course.
accidentally tweeted porn.
Why not?
And we got that. We got a hashtag going about him. It was hilarious. But anyway, that's unrelated.
Makes you have a really bloody good think. Right, this is
Whoa.
going to be like Clockwork Orange, except with your third eye.
Does this guy speak like this the whole time?
Not the whole time.
Okay. Is that
But
an
a good
accent
amount.
or a character? What's
I
happening?
know politics is a dirty game,
Accent.
but I think the New South Wales opposition leader Jody McKay would regret her words here.
I like how he sort of looks like Sam Harris. Wouldn't it be amazing if his show started with...
I know politics is a dirty game when she directly blamed the New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian for killing animals.
Oh my god, she said the truth! How's she
It
gonna
is
die
true.
in peace with that on her conscience?
Gladys
Would you like to
Berejiklian
remind us
said-
about the
Blockhead,
animals?
You were railing against...
Look, they basically scrap it. You're gonna hear about it later on. Trust
Sure.
me. But essentially, they're like, oh, we need to destroy koala habitat to build highways, and we need to fucking cut all this money from the firefighters and shit. And then when the country burns, they're like, oh, it's the Greens who banned backburning. That's the problem. The party that's never been in power ever.
That
Yeah, it's
reminds
their
me of
fault.
in Texas, where they had a historic power outage because power companies were selfish and wanted to make money. And then the governor goes
hold
on
on.
there and says, it was the
Hold on,
Green
did-
New Deal.
Hold on.
I'm
Let
holding.
me guess. I'm gonna guess what this is. I've never heard of this story, but something similar happened in Australia. They privatized the electric grid,
That's correct.
then they demanded outlandish prices.
That's correct.
People didn't want to pay it and complained.
That's not correct. They were forced to pay it. They
What?
didn't have the opportunity to complain.
That's very similar because a lot of power gets privatized in Australia.
Right.
Except for South Australia, which has some of the most stable power grids in the world, which is interesting, and Queensland, because, you know, we don't fucking allow it,
Right.
as far as I know. And New South Wales, well, they just privatize it to shit. But anyway.
Play scourging the words of the song Bear Hunt to Bush
Oh,
Hunt.
so this-
Quote,
Are they trying to tackle the epidemic of
Yeah.
children killing bears in
This is
Australia?
a bit off
Has that
topic,
become
but-
such an issue here down under?
but then you get triggered when Jody McKay tries to tackle the epidemic of Berejiklian actually killing koala bears.
To suggest that Gladys Berejiklian has blood on her hands
Gladys
over the death of
Berejiklian's
native
the Premier of
animals
New
is
South
an appalling
Wales,
thing to say, Jody. I
aka
don't know what
Koala
you're
Killer.
thinking.
She got nicknamed.
Is it that?
Right?
I'm sure there's probably a few Aussie Ned Flanders out there that find that language to be baffling if it's not surrounded by 40 minutes of facts. At that point, what becomes appalling is you deliberately cutting all of those out to make it appear as if Jodie's comments were baseless, which, Benny, to use your own words,
I know they say the media's a dirty game.
honestly, mate, it's like you learn how to do journalism from a current affair. Oh, wait.
I know
Oh,
you
wait.
guys play
Oh,
a tough
no?
game, but that's a bit below the belt. Isn't
Okay.
it?
Why is it?
So I'm going to skip forward in this video because you understand who Ben Fordham is, but he's not really relevant to this story.
Sure.
I just want to briefly mention him because I fucking hate him.
Right, of course. Shout outs.
There's a-
Dishonorable mention.
There's a part of this video that I really want to talk about. I just got to find where it's at. Hang on.
I'm hanging
I
on.
think it's here. Hang on, just a second. I probably should have found this video where it was ahead of time, but
You probably should. In fact, you're actually canceled.
okay, I found it.
You're
I found
uncanceled?
it now. Okay, it's about. If I could see the damn timestamp, that'd be nice. Okay, it's It's about here.
focusing
Okay.
on Berejiklian's massive multi-billion-dollar corruption that he was pointing out. On top of that, just for good measure, not only not reporting on any of the facts presented in that interview, like you insist on doing to this day,
come on.
the contrary, arguing that the Liberals' mutilation of the environmental laws in this state didn't go far enough. Anyway, that's
Yep.
something for you to reflect on in
Here,
your own
listen,
time,
this
Benny
is-
boy. I'm not demanding an apology. As far as I'm concerned, you've...
Let me introduce who he's about to talk about.
Okay.
And this is sort of gonna be someone we're gonna be focusing on for a very long time ahead of time.
I
John
love focusing.
John Bruz Barilaro. Now, John Barilaro is the Deputy Premier of New South Wales, and he is sort of a high-ranking member of the Nationals Party.
Sure.
The Nationals are a fucking awful piece of shit, corrupt party. Very corrupt, and I'm going to be focusing on them ahead of time.
Your
So,
sins by getting that
John
human bucket
Barilaro,
of puke
listen.
John Barilaro on the line to say...
And I've seen some of these banners online or physically where, they call Gladys the koala killer.
Holy shit.
And you know what's
that
funny
means?
about this?
No, I don't. Please tell me.
We got the hashtag going, hashtag koala killer, and tweeted at Gladys Berejiklian. That means he's actually seen the hashtag and he's actually upset by it. So it's working.
Imagine they're in like a smoke-filled back room and they're calling me the koala killer.
and then
He's
he
upset
sums it up
by
best.
it.
Watch.
When he sees that online, he thinks, oh, what the f***? She's never even personally killed one koala. The one she backed over was an accident, bruss. Good job, everyone. Particularly Simpsons against the Liberals. As your little league
that's a
coach
great
used to
page,
say,
by the way.
keep up the pressure. Keep memeing and referring to her as koala killer. As for once, we actually learned something from the Ben Fordham Breakfast Show. Barilaro is a triggered little bitch. Oh my god, bruss, names. And then, wouldn't you know...
Okay. So that's a little introduction to John Barilaro and how he really gets upset when we
Sure.
call him names and call out his corruption.
Snowflake little bitch.
So the whole idea now you get from this video is we need to keep triggering John Barilaro. Well, here comes the second
Remember
video.
I said a few back that it was your civic duty to continue to trigger Deputy Premier John Barilaro.
I'm cracking open a beer for this
Ladies
one.
and gentlemen,
Oh shit.
we got him.
A beer at 8 a.m.?
Just
It's
revel
late here.
for a second in the fact that
No,
the
it's
entire
not.
point of that video was to get
Colonial
JB to say,
IPA.
oh, what the f? And the point
shit.
that he said, oh, what the f? Was to me saying, oh, what the f? Well, I guess the only way to sum that up is, oh, what the f?
He's
As
saying,
reported
oh,
in
what the
Australia's
fuck.
favourite satirical
Right?
paper, The Telegraph, the exact same paper that is published
Owned by
within the span
Rupert
of a
Murdoch,
few
by the way,
months.
the Daily Telegraph.
Political correctness.
Oh
is
yeah,
now
so
out of control.
so they're pushing stories saying shit like culture of political correctness is out of control.
Political
Just listen.
correctness.
So
is
do me a favor.
disgusting, and we
What
have
is
to
your
stand
date
up and
format?
fight against it. Political
Is it month,
Correctness
day,
is
or
leading
day, month?
society towards a new
Month day. No, day month.
Day
actually.
month, right.
Day
so it's-
month.
Okay.
Yeah, day month. Sorry.
Thank
new
you.
era of tyranny. And even more relevant than that,
Did political correctness kill the Aussie larrikin?
has political correctness killed comedy?
Political correctness is the enemy of creativity.
And then went on to publish
And then
YouTube
published
comedian
this.
in racist low blow towards Premier. What? Had a sudden change of
Had a
heart?
sudden change
More
of
than happy
heart?
to take my side when I called Clive Palmer a fatty McFuckhead, which, let's be honest, that is way harsher than this.
Yeah,
voice
Clive
full of
Palmer.
race-
Clive Palmer was a mining magnate billionaire who threatened to sue Friendly Geordies because he called him a fatty McFuckhead.
That's really funny.
Like, like, oh my god, names, oh my god. Whatever.
racist undertones.
So
Right.
John Barilaro,
Giovanni, if I may.
John
that is your
Barilaro
real
is
name
like,
that
this
you
is-
changed
this is
despite
not
your
fair,
all of a
this is
sudden
full of racist
newfound pride in
undertones.
Your Italian roots. If my impression of you is filled with racist undertones, then your voice is filled with racist undertones. My impression of you is spot on. Listen to yourself.
You're here today not asking a question about
like,
hazard
this
reduction.
isn't dubbed,
You're
listen
here
to
today
him.
Pushing the campaign of the PSA.
That wasn't dubbed. Yet apparently it's an unfathomable exaggeration to imagine that guy using the word bruz. That's what he found unacceptable. Bruz.
What is bruz?
This
What is
coming
that?
from the
Is that a
It's
word?
sort of like a... yeah, not really, not technically, but it's sort of a joke saying that, like, people who are of, like, Mediterranean descent or migrate here will shorten. You ever gone to someone and be like, hello, bros, or some shit? It's like...
No, never in my life.
Instead of saying, like, brother, you say, oh my god, bruz, what are we doing? Or something like... It's just a bit of a slang here, right?
Sure.
If that makes sense.
So it's not bro, it's bruz?
Yeah, kinda.
Who comes up with this language? Who is the first person to introduce bruz into this culture?
I don't know.
And can we hold them accountable?
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
But, so he got offended because he used the word bruz. Bruz.
So, okay, let me understand this. So this guy will write op-ed after op-ed for 38 yonks about how cancel culture is evil, political correctness is the root of Satan.
No, that's the Murdoch press,
right?
Not this guy. But this guy, John Barilaro, well, we're going to be learning more about him in this video, about all the fucked up shit he's done. But he gets offended. Like, he's literally introduced shitloads of land clearing bills that cleared shitloads of land, which we're gonna learn about soon. He's offended after he kills shitloads of wild animals that we dare insult him using the word bruz. And the Murdoch press, just to push their own agenda, are like, oh, political correctness is out of control. And then YouTuber and racist, you get it, right?
It's a little ridiculous. It's just preying on people not knowing what the hell they're talking about.
It's just so the Murdoch press can push their own agenda to get the Liberal Party and the Nationals in power.
Sure.
Anyway.
The man who wrote very thought-provoking think piece, political correctness is stifling our energy debate, and then proceeds to stifle the land clearing debate with political correctness, stating,
I don't mind taking the mickey out of myself.
You seem like it. So upset your tanty was reported nationwide because of an impression of yourself you didn't like.
But this is actually very offensive.
Says man whose election campaign was run by a guy with links to white supremacist organizations.
His election campaign linked to someone election campaign with someone linked to white supremacist organizations. And he's getting offended that someone fucking used the word bruz.
This is all so interesting to me. I don't know what bruz is, so this is all very fun to watch.
MPs thought was
you're gonna learn more,
just
okay?
a tad f***ed. Which again, Giovanni, whatever. You can have your campaign run by a man whose head is inside his belly button, and every time you press it, he pops out and yells,
"Oh God!
Who dares disturb Baron von slumber?"
But it's fairly hypocritical to then turn around and whine,
It's a low attempt at comedy. Bruz?
Everyone's always trying to insult me with, your humor's lowbrow. Dude, my favourite film is Jackass. Thank you for the compliment. You know what I think's a low attempt at comedy? Your existence, but apart from that, the fact that the media refuses to cover your government's deplorable environment.
Watch this.
Even when showing a video discussing it, they will deliberately cut out all the horrific stats that you're responsible for so they can turn you, the blazer of 1 billion native animals, into the victim. That's what I find a little more unacceptable than the word bruz. So, I was thinking, maybe if we lace that information into what you find very offensive, perhaps the media will be forced to report on it for once. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my new and improved caricature of John Barilaro. Barilaro, bruz.
Because he's Italian.
Cancel that MSM, free shot. It's a me, Barilaro. Do you like these koalas?
So here's all the stuff he's done, right?
Sure.
So they destroyed Labour's Native Vegetation Act.
Of course.
Native Conservation Act. Yep. So it just allowed 99% of identified koala habitat to just be bulldozed. We don't need it.
Fuck 'em.
Nah.
Of the countless development and logging proposals in koala habitat, starving them, fast-forwarding their extinction clock, and didn't make any effort at all in an attempt to save their populations. All with the help of my good friend, yay! By mutilating Labour's Native Vegetation Act, I thought I'd increase land clearing by 45%. But what's the difference?
So he thought he'd increase land clearing by 45%? What's this, though?
I increased it by 1,300%. Mamma mia!
That's
when
a
I
lot.
discovered the Brumbies were destroying...
That's a lot. The Brumbies, right? They were starving, but they were actually destroying Kosciuszko National Park. The Brumbies are like they're a species of horse. Our terrain isn't, like, that terrain wasn't ready to take hoofed animals because Australia has very thin topsoil because we didn't go through an ice age, right?
Sure.
They were destroying the park and they were gonna do a cull. They were gonna, like, actually do a cull of the Brumbies, which would have saved the park. Would have.
The term Brumbies is just so adorable. I can't. Why would you hurt the Brumbies, for God's sake? What the
They
fuck?
were destroying the park. They were bringing species to the point of extinction, and he was gonna do a cull, but no. What's this?
Bringing a bunch of endangered species to the brink of extinction. I was gonna authorize a cull, but then I realized I could make a $10,000 in donations by allowing them to destroy the park. Woohoo! Everything in my life was going great until, what's these? Branch. Oh, someone hurt my feet.
So, yeah, he got paid $10,000 to just allow them to destroy the park.
That's a good deal.
And he's
$10,000. Hell yeah.
And he's like, oh my god, the word bruz.
T-shirts on sale now. Available
I
at
want this T-shirt so
Thanks
bad.
so much for buying my shirt. Links in the description. Still don't think they'll record on
we
it?
get some
That's
advertising,
okay.
another
Now that we know
YouTuber.
that the Telegraph is the new official media partner of the oppression of...
Okay, so I think I've outlined everything there
Sure.
as to how fucked up he is, right?
Sure.
Let me just quickly skim through it. Okay, fine. Now, we'll move on to the next video, and these are where the documentaries start. So, okay, I'm just going through my notes, making sure I'm getting everything. Okay. So, bruz. You'll like this video too, I think.
Would you pause and read this out for the people listening?
Okay. Friendly Geordies has been routinely exposing the corruption and misdeeds of the New South Wales coalition government. That's the Liberals and the Nationals. Naturally, I should clarify too, the Liberal Party is actually sort of our conservative government. Yeah,
Right.
Get your head around that. And the Nationals are like, let's just say they're more fucked than the Liberal Party, but whatever.
I mean, they're
naturally
nationals.
Yeah. Naturally mocking the Premier and Deputy Premier in the process. Barilaro condemned Jordan's use of the word bruz with an Italian accent as deeply offensive and racist.
Deeply offensive. Oh my
Yeah, you know what I find deeply offensive? What we're about to watch.
Murdering the Brumbies.
Yeah.
What the f?
No, he didn't murder the Brumbies because he got paid $10,000.
Right. Well, almost murdering the Brumbies.
Murdering the fucking national park.
I just want to say Brumbies. That's really what I'm interested in.
Alright, so, a new nickname was bought, but let's watch the rest of this, shall we? So you're probably wondering, where is this place they're at? Well, you're gonna find out. It's in a bathtub. It's completely safe, though. I promise it's
Celebrated
safe.
French writer de Balzac once said that behind every great fortune lies a great crime. I didn't know he said that. I just remember Chris Rock misquoting it once. The point is, it's very easy to look at plutocrats like Gina Reinhardt, Rupert Murdoch, Max Mofa.
Gina Reinhardt's the richest person in Australia.
And come to that conclusion. But asterisk, behind fairly impressive fortunes, like many dumb little annoying crimes perpetrated by dumb little annoying people, aka the Italian stallion, or Shetland pony rather, Giovanni Dominique Barilaro. Now you might be thinking, oh no, he's in a bath naked. Can't you make something that isn't crude so I can show my mum? Don't you worry. We're not here to talk about my big fat wad cock. We're here to talk about another big fat wad cock.
Bruz.
Now that we're comfortable,
John Barilaro is
He
a man
changed
whose
his name to John, by the
expediency
way.
seeps right down to his very genetics. As
Okay.
Not only do his political
What was it
convictions
before?
turn on a dime,
Giovanni.
so does his ethnicity. Proud Italian when he thinks he can score pity points. Rinky-dink Johnny from the bush when he thinks he can score a national seat. Willing to change his entire identity, right down to his name.
Yeah,
Surely
so-
distressing his inner child who would wonder,
Hey, Giovanni, what's the matter? You're not talking with your accent no more.
Brother Mia!
he's a con man to the core, powered by spaghetti. As such, I'll be referring to him from now on as Giovanni. And not just because that's his name, but also because he's just such a Giovanni. Plus it pisses him off. And I really like the thought of that man being upset.
Oh, what the f***? Another video? Bros, as if the joke isn't old already.
No, wait, I've got new material for you. You ready? Your response to the Berejiklian
So
bushfire.
you probably, and a lot of people probably heard about this when Australia burned in 2020, January,
Right.
around then. This man and Gladys Berejiklian are basically the people responsible for it, hey.
Giovanni's actions during the bushfires were like all his other actions in life, stupid as fuck. And very funny. Like the rest of us, he didn't know exactly what to do, but knew that the first step was to get mad at the people who had been attempting to warn him about the fires for the last decade.
The
Bros,
firefighters
I'm
and
a
shit.
visual learner. They should have turned what was gonna happen into a movie, then I would have paid attention.
He blamed the national parks. One of the men most
AKA
responsible
the
on
national
Earth.
parks, AKA the people who actually plan hazard reduction burns and actually are responsible for putting fires out and shit. He blamed them after he cut $125 million from their budget, with 36 fire management officers for all of New South Wales under Labor, 10 under the Coalition.
I see.
For
So
the
this
Black
guy's a prick?
bushfires, blaming the people
Yeah,
least
he
responsible
is.
for it, claiming that they were ideologically opposed to hazard reduction burns.
Ideologically don't like the concept of hazard
Yeah, he's saying,
reduction, but
oh,
we
the
give them
national parks
responsibility.
don't like
you
hazard
ball of
reduction
grease.
burns.
The reason they're not doing hazard reduction burns is because you cut their funding by 27%. They've been begging, specifically Fat Lips here, for the funds so that they could do the hazard reduction burns. But you cut the number of rangers by 100. And you cut the number of people who make the plans for hazard reduction burns from 36 under Labor to 10
I
under
just
the
said that,
Coalition.
yeah.
Bruz.
You're into cooking.
Oh no?
Today I'm going to do something simple. A veal scallopino.
Of course he eats veal.
Yeah, it's tasty.
What you did to the National Parks and Wildlife Service is like not adding water to minestrone and saying,
This minestrone is ideologically opposed to being a soup.
I mean, it's obvious when you look at Giovanni's decisions and comments that he's a moron. But I at least thought he'd be smart enough to come up with an excuse that is a little better than.
Bros, it's not the government's fault. It's the, government's fault. You're in charge of the national parks, you idiot.
Anyway, look at this.
Trust me, it'll be funny later.
John,
Oh, it will.
like the rest
Don't
of us,
worry.
remembers the bushfires as a time of great anguish as he was forced to take time out of his London holiday to moralise.
Oh, I
to
have to take time out of my London holiday.
Don't worry, though.
Oh my
He
god.
didn't bother coming home to do
I
it.
love
He still
going on
continued
holiday.
on with his holiday to say,
Going on holidays while the country's burning, I love it. Also, so did our Prime Minister, the guy who fucked
That's
off
exactly
to Hawaii
what
while the country
happened
burned.
in Texas. The Senator Ted Cruz left the country.
I
as soon
heard
as
about
the-
that, yeah.
Yeah, he was just going to Cancun. He didn't, gonna get a suntan while all my constituents freeze to death. Feels good.
Fucking hell.
In Madrid, don't understand the struggle of us fading bush battlers like myself.
Oh, yeah, interesting. And where are you?
Big Ben Stooge! Boom!
Claiming that he's battling for the bush. What part of sitting
claiming
on your
he's
fat,
battling for the
worthless
bush.
ass in merry old England while the bush was burning, blaming the people who were putting out those fires that you practically lit, screams battling for the bush to you.
Cause bros, I make the battles and then I fight them. Understand?
Looks like the Julio Claudians weren't wiped out after all, were they? It's just they got so inbred that the only musical instrument they can play is that big horn at Canberra Raiders matches. If you're battling for the bush, John, then I'm protecting the moon from having an atmosphere.
And every night it looks down and thanks just me. I'd read him a bedtime story too if he wasn't so far away. Anyway, let's look at water theft.
Watch
Giovanni
this.
promised a royal commission into water corruption. Then
So let me outline what water corruption is.
I love water.
So, water, you need it to basically, stay fucking alive.
Right.
To actually live, you need to drink water.
Right.
We can go a couple weeks without food, but a couple days without water, we're fucked.
Oh, yeah?
They not only privatized the water companies, but then stole a shitload of water from the Murray-Darling Basin, which basically is one of Australia's biggest river, and just sold it off to foreign investors for money.
Makes sense to me.
That's just a tad fucked, right? Just a tad fucked.
I mean, our water here is a giant disaster. We sell it all to corporations like Nestle and Coca-Cola and shit.
I've heard about Nestle and how fucked they are.
Oh, yeah? No good, folks. Yeah. No good?
Yeah.
Then when it came to crime,
Giovanni promised a fucking... the video stuffed up. He basically promised a royal commission into water corruption, which basically means I'll look into it and actually do something about it. Then when it came to crunch time to actually pull the vote, he voted against it.
Why? What was the reason?
Because it makes him money.
Oh, of course.
Because he has it all privatized.
Of course.
There's only one possible explanation for that. He switched heads with Jennifer Coolidge and no one noticed. Seriously though, I think he's corrupt. Shooters and Fishers legend Helen Dalton asked why he so blatantly broke his promise. All he had to do was vote yes.
Check this out. So Helen Dalton tweeted at him saying, "Why did you do this?"
This is true. This is the actual
This is how Giovanni responds.
Helen, you are disgusting human. I told you he was a dumb It looks like a caveman wrote that tweet. Helen, you are disgusting human. He calls himself Pork Barrelaro.
Okay. Do you know what pork barreling is?
No, I don't.
You've never heard that term before?
I've never in my entire life. That's as new to me as bruz.
Okay. We're going to talk about what pork barreling is later. But in short, it's essentially taking government funds and just giving it to shit that is unnecessary.
Sure.
Right? And we're going to talk more about that later.
He wears his corruption as a badge of honor.
He's like, call me Pork Barrelaro.
I'm sorry, but we're going to have to appreciate that set of photos. I'm not making this up. He was the spaghetti-eating champion for 25 years. And yet he gets offended when I point out he's Italian. Mario Level Ladies and gentlemen of New South Wales, I present to you your Deputy Premier.
Oh, that's tasty.
Make it a success story. Obviously, he's trying to spin his pork barreling as John Barilaro, aka Greasy Ned Kelly, stealing from the rich and giving to the battlers of the bush so the battlers of the bush can have what they desire most. Fish and chip shops. Do you have calamari?
What's Capitani?
Oh, he pork barrels all right.
Alright, so here's his pork barreling, alright?
Looking at Judith McGrath from All Saints. Now that's hard. In case you're wondering what pork barreling is, it's simply giving government money to seats that don't need it. And the problem with Giovanni is he only gives it to his friends, not even to electorates. For example, he announced a government fund called the Go Equity Fund, aimed at investing in small businesses in the bush. And to help him decide where to invest, he got a private equity fund called ROC Partners to help pitch in. Always a good start. When a politician privatises even their ability to make decisions. What confidence the people of Monero must have in their member when even he thinks the free market can do a better job than him, but still wants our checks to not do it. Have a look at who ROC and Giovanni, wink, decided to invest in. Australia's Oyster Coast. Wonder what they produce. Coasts? Nup? Oysters. Oh, sorry, boys. Now, why would Barilaro and ROC decide to invest $3.3 million into a company that loses money when there were perfectly good smaller oyster farms running at a profit? Could it have anything to do with the fact that Australia's Oyster Coast is chaired by David Trebek, ex-director of the Liberal Party's policy unit,
former Liberal Party
member
member
of HR Nichols Society, a think tank created by Peter Costello, Surely a man who...
Ooh, Peter Costello. Ooh, now
Tell
I
me
get to
more?
talk about him. I got to talk about Peter. I have Peter Costello in my notes. So, Peter Costello is a former treasurer of the Liberal Party, and he's often considered a big joke because he ran to go for Prime Minister many, many times, and he never made it. And he was a piece of shit who fucked the economy pretty damn hard, too.
Of course.
And nowadays, Peter Costello is on the board of 9 Fairfax. And 9 Fairfax, I've briefly mentioned them before, but they own shit like the Sydney Morning Herald, 9 News, and a bunch of other companies. They're a big media outlet, right?
Right.
Friendly Geordie's got in contact with a lot of journalists from 9 Fairfax and asked them a simple question. Not even hard to answer. What is your relationship with John Barilaro? They refuse to answer.
They've never heard that name in their life.
And yet they write so many smear campaigns against the Labour Party and praise John Barilaro.
Why do you think he changed his name? I mean, I don't know. Who's that?
Yeah. So they just never mention it and then just smear campaign Labour leaders. It's just... The media is just a giant magnifying glass. You know, they'll just focus on one small little thing like, oh my god, Jodie McKay was seen at Woolworths buying scallopino oysters. Do you think she cares about our meat industry or something? Just simple shit like that.
Well, personally, as a vegetarian, the idea that there's a meat industry is very offensive to me. All I want to do is care for the Brumbies. That's what I'm interested in.
You see, that was kind of the idea, though, that was a hypothetical point I was bringing up. The media sucks, is what I'm basically trying to say.
Like
and they're a fuck political weapon.
Wouldn't knowingly hand out millions of taxpayer dollars to a failing oyster farm just because his mate ran it. Gifting that enterprise taxpayer money would be shameless. Almost as shameless as me asking you to like this video, which should put a new twist on an old classic. Come on, I'm liking here. Just to be sure though, New South Wales Parliament asked him over and over, did you give tax money to Australia's Oyster Coast because your friend ran it? To which he repeatedly said, it wasn't me, I didn't have shit to do with it, off. Or words to that effect. 9 times over, under oath. I think you can see where this is going.
They asked him 9 times, and he's like, no, I didn't do it. But guess what? He actually signed off on it himself.
New South Wales Labor then said, maybe you should step down
do they have
for
perjury
at least
laws?
being, you know, slimier than me. Yeah!
Maybe you should step down for being just a little bit slimy.
You know what he said?
What the fuck?
But sir, it was an accident. I didn't mean to do it, bro.
I didn't mean to do it. It was an accident.
Not only did he use the public's money to prop up a friend's
I don't think we have
business,
perjury laws, and if we
he
do,
perjured himself
nothing happened.
9 times over. You usually go to jail for committing perjury once.
Yeah, there you
Let
go.
that sink in. And then do what your mum does when she hears something that she doesn't like on the news, which is, ow. Then get ready for the second whammy that makes your mum say, oh no, that's horrible. Because also $3.3 million was given to a beef company that just 10 months earlier ROC Partners bought a majority stake in? Ha. Do you get it? No? Okay, let me make this as simple as possible. ROC Partners advised that the New South Wales government give your money to ROC Partners. When Labor found out about this, they tried to force Giovanni to refer the deals to an independent pricing and regulatory tribunal that would obviously find what you would assume on hearing that is blatant corruption. And wouldn't you guess? Giovanni said what he says whenever someone makes a plausible accusation of corruption perpetrated by him. Oof. Anyway, Labor introduced an order to call for Giovanni's Go Equity documents to be released. Libs unsurprisingly voted not to show those documents. It only passed because of the crossbench, meaning basically only the New South Wales government voted against the New South Wales government being properly scrutinised. Another time, Mr. Barilaro awarded this man called Andrew Stoner. Oh, bruz. Stoner. Do you think he is one? See for yourself, bruh. Definitely a real photo. He was given 98 grand of your money for cutting grass. Didn't know it cost that much. Then I wonder what makes Andrew
Not
Stoner
the good
so
kind of
special.
grass either.
Maybe it's that Andrew Stoner is the former leader of the Nationals, and Super Barilaro owes his entire political career to Andrew
Because John
Stoner.
Barilaro is a member
Just
of the
remember,
Nationals.
when Giovanni proudly touts the nickname Pork Barilaro, he's not pork barreling for you. Unless your name is Andrew Stoner, in which case you're probably watching this saying, "Mate, you just said he is, idiot." Sometimes he throws his constituency a bone. Barilaro and New South Wales Arts Minister Don Harwin. Jesus, I wonder what he does in a day. Anyone could make that. It sucks. They had a $47 million arts grant program to dole out. Conveniently, as always, just before an election. Guess how much of that $47 million went to coalition seats? $44 million. Jesus. Who says the coalition
And how much went to
doesn't
Labor
support
seats?
the arts, eh? Guess how much went to Labor seats? $4,000. 4,000 out of 47 million. Surely if this
Just
was
a tad
run,
fucked,
even the
right?
Kurds would have got
A little bit, yeah.
Labor got 0.0085% of the money. Out of every $11,750 allocated, Labor seats got $1. The Nationals actually think the point of being in government is to rort funds, don't they? This is just prototype sports rorts. Instead of wearing helmets,
There's another video
they're
on
wearing
that, but
berets. On
it's
the plus
irrelevant.
side, it did
Alright.
force Barilaro to exercise his decision-making muscles. If only it was his actual muscles he exercised. He pushed for the funding of 8 projects that he was explicitly told not to fund, as heaven forbid Labor got more than 1 in every $11,750. Barilaro's own seat, Monero, marginal seat, received nearly 1,000 times more funding than all the Labor seats combined. If that wasn't enough, it just came out that he personally approved $4 million in council grants for his own electorate. Not to draw
We talk
attention
more
to
about
his
the Brumbies,
Italian
by the way,
heritage,
so
because I know
you'll
he
like
hates
that.
I love the Brumbies.
Eventually.
It's a spicy meatball.
I don't.
In fact, he looks a bit like a meatball, doesn't he?
5-star pork mince, dude.
And now we get to my pet peeve.
Here we
Very
go.
peculiar, I know, as barely anyone in the press seems to care that Mr. Barilaro is responsible for trashing a national treasure that is easily as iconic as Uluru, the Great Barrier Reef, Gosford, Kosciuszko National Park, degrading tens of thousands of hectares of wilderness, pushing
Yeah,
27
he
native
degraded
species to
that.
the
Look at
brink
how
of
fucked up
extinction.
it is now.
And he did it for like 10 grand.
He did that for
Personnel
10 grand, just
values
allowing the
second-hand
Brumbies to
gear so
destroy it.
highly.
That's like a year's
How's he
salary.
doing all this? Well,
Yeah,
shut
not
up,
even.
bozo, and I'll tell
So
you.
how did he do it?
He championed
Well-
the Kosciuszko Wild Horse Heritage Bill. If he's stupid enough to pass that, he'd be stupid enough to pass a bill preserving the lice on his head. Brumbies are basically majestic rabbits. They should be murdered as quickly and inhumanely as possible. Oh no, wait, sorry, I'm thinking of people from Newtown. The point is, our alpine ecosystems haven't evolved to accommodate hoofed animals. The topsoil in this region is extremely delicate, and when it's dug up, it's permanently degraded. As a
'Cause we
result,
didn't go through an
due to
ice
them
age,
destroying
yeah.
land, trampling animals that live in the grass, fouling up the water, there are dozens of native species going extinct. Scientists and national parks proposed a cull. Giovanni, the greasy little scrotum, refused.
And it wouldn't, just for
It's a
clarification,
decision so-
it wouldn't have killed all of the Brumbies. It wouldn't have. It would have kept the species alive. It would have saved a shitload of native animals, the terrain, and all this shit. And it would have left, as you can read it right there, about 600 Brumbies alive. But no, he didn't do the cull because he got paid $10,000.
So stupid.
10,000? I mean,
South
that's a
Wales
solid
became
amount of
global
money.
laughing stock, which we completely deserve, as we elected a deputy premier whose highest
Could buy a new
qualification is a
refrigerator.
cert for in housing that isn't even from a TAFE. Think about that. He couldn't graduate TAFE.
TAFE
An
is like a community college here that's free, right?
Okay.
Institution
I
where
think,
if you
but
fail,
whatever.
They let you look at the answers and redo the test immediately.
He couldn't graduate
A guy
TAFE.
that couldn't even do that is in charge of some of the most delicate ecosystems on Earth that not even scientists properly understand. Yeah, but I understand something that they don't. How'd they get $10,000? All this carnage for what? To allow a bunch of inbred hillbillies to tie a frightened mother up to a tree, wait for her to give birth, steal the baby, and leave her there to starve to death. That's preserving
Direct
the dignity
testimony.
of this quote-unquote cultural icon, is it, Giovanni? Couldn't be that you got 10 grand in donations and then pretended to care about the cultural significance of a vermin that is destroying the most culturally significant national park to this nation's heritage. All for the price of a pool table. You are perfectly happy to commit ecocide just to go, yeah, shot. Want to play again? Nah. That's what he's willing to sacrifice 27 species for. As usual, Labor demanded an investigation and that the bill be suspended until a conflict of interest was cleared, but no. Good old moderate Gladys Berejiklian declared that the accusations were grubby. And that even questioning the bill was inappropriate. And that the bill was based on facts and community views. That's odd because the bill made New South Wales a global laughingstock among scientists. Everyone at National Park supported the cull. I didn't know a donor's opinion was fact and that he represented the community view alone.
Well, now you do. If I could pass a bill protecting myself as a cultural icon, I would. Gladys, can I be a protected species? Oh, for the last time, John, no. Oh, but miss, you look so pretty today.
So in summary, can everyone stop asking me what happened to Yilmaz?
No, that's a different series. Don't worry about that.
No, wait, that's unfair. Yilmaz at least graduated TAFE. I think with the evidence provided so far, it's been pretty well established that the constituency Barilaro truly represents as Deputy Premier of New South Wales is not New South Wales. Nor is it the bush, no. Giovanni represents the electorate of Giovanni. And although he's wide enough to be an electorate, I really don't think even he needs all the resources he's personally consuming. Take for instance when the New South Wales government decided it was time to draft up laws regulating digital businesses like Airbnb.
So the government's like, we need to draft up laws regulating Airbnb and stays, right?
Sure.
Airbnb and stays. Barilaro couldn't stick his pudgy little hand up quick enough. Pick me, miss, please. Why was Barilaro all of a sudden interested in this industry?
Makes you think, right?
To the oh-so-important seat of Giovanni. 4 months prior to becoming regional tourism minister, he bought not just a mansion, but an estate. Equipped with a mineral pool, tennis court, boat shed, lakes,
he bought this
7
estate,
bedrooms,
right?
Which he decided to let out via Airbnb.
And he's put it on Airbnb and stays.
It occurred to him once to register an Airbnb estate as a potential conflict of interest when shaping the laws surrounding Airbnbs and stays. He and his cronies arguing,
Bruz, the estate only makes around 160k a year. Yeah.
Only $160,000 a year. Just, fuck, how much do I make a year? Like 40,000 in my fucking 40-hour-a-week job? And he's like, no, it only makes $160,000. Yeah, just 4 times my annual salary.
I mean, you have to understand, right? This is an extremely important aspect. That makes him money, and therefore it's good. Whereas if you make money, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't matter.
160k a year.
Yeah, just to be 2.5 times the salary of the average Aussie in just one of the investments that he owns. That's all.
Yeah, but Khaz, it's still currently in the negative, so it's not an asset. Haven't you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, Bruz?
No.
Me either, Stooge.
They actually argued that. As well as...
Bruz, what possible conflict of interest is there in me owning an extremely expensive property that I just admitted I want to maximize the value on as quickly as possible?
He's declaring his conflict of interest in his own argument as to why he doesn't have a conflict of interest. What repercussions were there for this blatant display of corruption and regulatory tailoring made to fit John Barilaro's very specific waist? Nothing. Still did a job, still got to shape the laws. Just another chapter in a long, distinguished career of rorting the system as much as he possibly can for the benefit of no one but La Familia. His view of governing, exactly what it was in ancient Rome. No vision for improving the state, no skills to govern, just a fat, decadent con man that by the grace of the gods was put in his position to ransack the empire for all it's worth. And yet he's offended by being portrayed as an Italian stereotype.
Well, Giovanni,
It's my gripe.
if you
Hey,
find that
he does all this
comparison
shit, and he's like, "No, you can't
same
call me
offer as to
Italian. It's
all your other
offensive."
discrepancies.
Isn't he
Show
literally
me the evidence
Italian
that you're
now?
not a stereotype.
Yeah, he
I'll
is.
Stop. Show me how a man
He's
on
like,
a
"Oh, it's
state
racist and
minister's
offensive."
salary could
Okay.
afford an estate.
Okay.
As
How's
not
that
even
fucking?
your
How's
first
Kosciuszko
house.
National Park holding up?
Your second house. A second house that's so big it has a second and third house on it. Like Mars.
Oh, you ready for this, though?
Just
This
got
is the best
attracted
part of
into
it
its
all.
Gravitational pull. And might I just say, those spare houses are real nice, Giovanni. Yeah, I'm talking directly to you now. Because as you've probably gathered, or haven't because you're that dumb, I'm filming at your estate. And
He's
I want
actually
you to be
at
the
the
first to know
estate.
that I f***ed in both your guest houses.
Oh no. Did he rent
What
it
is
on
it the mate
Airbnb?
Ben Fordham always
Yep.
says? Politics is a dirty game. Hey, Barra?
Politics
My
is a
track
dirty
record of
game.
What I've done in your houses, still nowhere near as dirty as what you've done to get them. Surely you should know that you make a lot of enemies in politics. Would have thought you'd at least check who's booking your houses, as someone might want to have a little snoop. Remember when you chucked a tanty when the arts minister Don Harwin broke lockdown rules and visited his holiday house, and then weeks later you did exactly the same thing and said,
No, but mine's essential. I need to feed the chooks and mow the lawn. I'm a farmer.
You know, for a long time I thought you were lying you had chickens. This place is so big they're hard to find. We checked the butler's pantry, the mineral pool, your private f***ing lake that you ostensibly afforded on a public servant's salary. How did you afford to run this place at a loss, John?
Ah, there they are. Nice breed.
We paid the obscenely lavish amount of money he charges to stay here, so...
It's like $800 a
I
night or
signed
some
up for
shit.
Patreon, that'd
Jeez.
be great because... This hurt. I mean, there's a $750 cleanup bill to give you an idea. Anyone would think someone shaped the laws to legalize that level of extortion. But don't worry.
Yeah,
Make
maybe.
sure I get my money's worth.
Make sure I get my money's worth.
Oh my god.
Seeing as we're here, though, I
To be
thought we'd give
fair,
everyone
to be
an
fair, that actually wasn't a vase from the Airbnb. He actually bought that.
Well, of course.
I wish
if
it
it's
was
funny
from the.
though.
I wish it was from the Airbnb
everyone a
personally,
nice
but
tour of the
anyway.
beautiful maison, just so everyone can really appreciate how spacious this place is and how much stuff Giovanni must have done that we don't even know about to earn it. And, this is a little bonus. I thought we'd be placing some Super Mario Brothers paraphernalia around the house. Points that really tick us off. So Giovanni, while you're picking these up, and you're pissed that they're there, that's how I feel that you own this house in the first place. You might be wondering, oh my god, bros, how can they do this? Is this even legal? Don't worry, Johnny B. I got permission to film here for my birthday, for my socials. And can I just say, Giovanni, this is the best present I've ever received. Make sure you press like, subscribe, and chuck us a couple of bucks on Patreon. What a birthday!
Okay, from this point on, the video just gets a bit stupid.
Alright.
Yeah, he's just leaving Mario stuff around the place just so it annoys him.
Is he
Because
actually
he
going
hate-
to find that though, or is he just
Russ,
gonna have a maid clean it up?
What do you think of the decoration?
I
that
hope
made
he
for you
finds
up
it.
there?
I hope.
Like, you'd have to hide it in spots that only he would find it. Like, under a pillow.
I
or
don't know.
This is how much Barolaro loves Gladys.
I'll show it at
Berejiklian.
the end. I'll show it at
What
the
does
end.
get you going in the morning though? Bros Expressies. I think we're gonna get him going.
All right, hang on.
Big
Let me go to the
Mario.
end. So watch
like
this.
and subscribe and share.
You'll like this.
Alright, I will like
You'll like-
this.
You'll like. Sorry, the IPAs are a bit heavy. Sorry.
And finally, we're gonna put the
They're
big
gonna leave the big Mario
big
in the bed.
Purely because I'm imagining that Super Barolaro bros will wake up one morning only to discover.
I love the Godfather music, by the way.
Mm-hmm. It's totally not racist.
I mean, take it your own way, but I just find it funny. So, There's your introduction to who John Barilaro is and why he's a total piece of shit.
All right. Good introduction.
Now, I don't know how much time I have left, but I have that documentary.
How long is the documentary? Let's say we got 25 minutes left.
You can watch about that long of it if you want.
Sure.
Because this documentary covers police corruption, land corruption, just blatant environmental law breaking, economic corruption, all sorts of shit. Yeah.
All right.
Fish and chips. Came down the main street, thought, I wonder if it's the popular fish and chip shop located across the road. And we said, no.
I'll comment on the intro. They call it gatekeeper corruption, gatekeeper production. Sorry.
Sure.
And they it's interesting because Jordan, one of Jordan's producers, got nicknamed by the media the Gatekeeper.
One day we put out a call on Twitter for dirt on John
because
our friend.
Journalists called him and they're like, Jordan's gatekeeper kept answering the phone and wouldn't put Jordan on the phone.
Oh, okay.
Stuart said, come on down to the town I live in. It's a national stronghold, so many people ruined by that party. I'll line you up with a bunch of interviews.
So the Nationals run this town and a bunch of other rural towns, right?
Dirt, but Jesus Christ, we got a wheelbarrow of national party
now,
corruption.
These people like come down to Narendra and talk to us. I'll show you corruption like right here and there.
Virtually buried career. Ladies and gentlemen,
I need to add one more thing. After
in 2000, virtually buried.
After Jordan put that previous video out,
sure.
John Barilaro actually had to go on mental health leave.
Oh no.
I find that interesting.
Is that the absolute state of Australian politics where a YouTuber can cause this much?
Compare someone to Super Mario and then have to make them go on mental health leave. Yeah.
I gotta figure out how I can do that in America.
Was virtually buried here. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Narendra, a case study on how the Nationals run a small town, i.e. secret dictatorship.
That's what it is. It is a dictatorship, and you're going to see why.
Sebastian and Tracy Parper. In 2014, their neighbour pumped raw sewerage onto their farmland, which led to the land being poisoned by salmonella.
The neighbours pumped sewage onto our property, and it also went into an ephemeral creek. But when I tested the soil, it came up with salmonella. So if you've got salmonella tested,
so you know what that means, right?
It is a explain it to me.
Right? No, but
they quarantine the keep you off and everything.
Salmonella. You could usually get it from eating like raw meat or something, but
which I would never do.
I mean, I know, but here's the thing. You can get very, very, very sick and even potentially die from salmonella, right?
Right.
They pumped raw sewage on this guy's property. He tested the soil and it came up salmonella.
Until it comes.
Keep watching.
Go back on their property. Yeah, ours they covered it up.
And they the government tried to cover this up.
Seb and Tracy's 7-year-old son.
So then their 7-year-old son here got a bacterial infection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's constantly sick.
Told them they were happy,
and they're trying to cover this up.
For them to continue to do this until you're hooked onto town series, regardless of the child being sick. Papa's a nobody. You're a motel on a hill. You've got connections with us. We're all together. Just ignoring.
In response, Narendra Council did nothing. And Seb went everywhere to try and get any official to do anything.
I put my complaint forward to Steph Cook, right? So
Steph Cook's the Nationals MP of this town.
And you watch her when she says it. I passed it on to the appropriate authorities. You know she's talking shit. Just the way she answers the question.
She's like, "Oh, I've passed it on to the national, the next authorities." And you can tell she's talking shit because nothing happens.
Of course.
Then the EPA starts to investigate it.
They made out that we were at a site saying that they could continue to contaminate the land.
So the EPA then falsified
Well,
documents.
they just wrote something up to the EPA.
What happens is, obviously there must be council meetings over our problems. Goes to the council meeting, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So what council does is, they falsify
They did
shit.
an investigation.
They falsify
and put
stuff.
us at an investigation saying we were happy with what was going on. And we wrote back to them and said, this is a lie. Why would we be sending letters from our solicitors telling you to stop and saying we've got a sick child if we're saying you could keep doing it? So we asked them to fix it. They didn't address it. We rang EPA, and then Craig
what
said,
happened was...
I wasn't there either. They're not dobbing me in.
They're falsifying government documents, which is 10 years imprisonment. Right?
Yeah,
So
minimum 10 years.
Hang on.
Well, maximum,
The
sorry.
council was falsifying documents.
Government documents.
And EPA wrote to them and told them to fix it. We've got
I went to
all
the
in writing.
police. I brought this up with Steph Cook, right? And she said it's a crime. I said, but the police won't act unless...
So the police
the
don't
government
act,
tells them to
obviously.
act.
Right.
The exact words come from the sergeant here. We will not act unless the government tells us to act. Doesn't matter if it's a crime. I went back to him and I said, Steph Cook
And the
said
government,
all
they're
crimes
saying we won't
are
act
crimes,
unless
crime
the
we
government
must
tells
act.
us to
And
act,
he
but the
said,
government
no,
won't do
unless we're
anything.
told by the
So it's just this
government
perfect
that
circle,
they're
right?
So
it's just this like perfect circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all protect each other.
Okay, so there's no penetration of that.
The council then tried to shut down the investigation by lying to the EPA, essentially claiming that Seb and Tracy were now fine with their land being poisoned and their son seriously ill. Here's the proof. Craig Bretherton, manager of the Southwestern and New South Wales EPA, faced with a clear and brazen example of corruption that is actively destroying the life of a family, instead of going to the police or doing anything serious about it, asked the council to fix their mistake.
Craig Bretherton said, he wrote to him and said, I've asked them to fix their mistake.
Who's Craig Bretherton?
EPA.
He's the head of the EPA.
Local EPA.
So he's asked them to fix their mistake, right?
Yeah.
I seen the letter and I rang Craig Bretherton and I said, why did you tell them to fix their mistake? It's not a mistake. He goes, because we're allies and we have to be nice to each other.
You'd think they'd learn from their mistake. Instead of this, Judy Charlton, General Manager of Narrandera Council, then went on to selectively edit and falsify EPA documents to absolve the council of any responsibility.
Just a tad
She then
fucked,
presented
right?
these
Just a
selectively
tad
edited
fucked.
documents to the council.
little.
What a surprise, the council voted against action. When the EPA found out about this, they were not happy. You see, forging government documents has a penalty of 10 years in prison. So what did the council do to rectify this mistake? They got a consultant. The same consultant they always get, Kath Roach of Sync Solutions. I wonder what Kath Roach, who's friends with and gets many lucrative contracts from Narrandera, will think. Oh, what a surprise. She found that the council, despite what the EPA said, didn't break the law. Yet in an investigation about Seb, she didn't talk to Seb once.
So in that investigation...
Yeah, they're trying to
did she
investigate
come to
this
me
issue,
ask me
and they
for my
didn't
side of the
talk
story?
to this
No,
guy
she
at
didn't.
all.
So
And she's obliged to.
How do you do an investigation when she's not coming to me to get my evidence?
As a result of giving even the slightest bit of pushback to the council, police are sent regularly to harass the Papas.
And they're mixed up with the police, and we've been raided by the police.
And the police are constantly harassing them, and they got raided by the police too.
For what reason?
Because they complained about having raw sewage pumped on their property.
What do you think you're doing? What do you think you're doing?
And the police like to harass people who have disputes with the council.
Of course, they're the personal gangsters.
We can attest to the police harassment claims as when Christo was driving down to Narrandera for the first time, police were
Check
tipped
this
off that
out,
he was
right?
coming.
And
He
they
was
can
followed for
attest to
10
this
minutes
because
and then breath
Christo,
tested
who's
and
his
drug
producer or
tested.
the gatekeeper,
I was
got tipped
confused why
off
the council would go to so
and
much
pulled him
trouble to
over and
cover up
breath
for
and drug
someone who has
tested him.
clearly broken the law, ruined a family's life, and potentially given a child permanent health problems.
They did this because they're mates with the neighbours?
Yes, yes. He's in
So the
Rovenski.
council's
He's an
mates with the neighbours who pump the raw sewage,
they're very
and
good
that's why they're
friends
trying to
with
cover it up.
The mayor at the time when this all happened.
Can you name
Jenny
it?
Clark. Yeah, I'll name her.
Absolutely.
I'll name her.
So who is it?
Jenny Clark was the mayor at the time.
Jenny Clark was the mayor at the time, and who's your neighbour?
Warren Magnuson.
It seems the man who poisoned Papa's land is good friends with many councillors, past and present, as when Seb and the EPA pointed out that Judy Charlton had selectively edited government documents in order to skew the council vote to then Mayor Neville Kashenka, he refused to do anything about it. Anyway, off topic, here's a picture of Warren Magnuson and Mayor Kashenka having a nice time
That's
together.
the neighbour
In fact, Mayor
who
Kashenka
pumped the
was friends with
sewage.
a lot of
Right.
important people. Here's a picture of him receiving a grant with State Nationals MP Steph Cook. Here he is with
person,
Federal
the
Environment
council
Minister Susan
MP.
Lee and Steph Cook. And here he is with Bruz. This gets us on to the topic of grants. There seems to be a universal consensus that a lot of money goes through Narrandera, yet no infrastructure gets built.
And look how much grant money Narendera's getting. But have you seen where
I
this
only
goes?
saw one like national shop franchise in that shot there, and it was Coles, which is basically a big supermarket.
You're rebuilding Narendera. I don't know, but I heard they just received 14.
So they're getting like $14 million in grants, right? But none of it's being put into the town. None of it.
No. These are probably all the grants online. Yeah, they got grant money. Beautify Dillonbar. So they've done the road and they've stuffed up all the drains. The water is set running there. It runs straight through my property.
Yeah, that's his property, right? And it's running straight through
They
it.
got the grants.
All the
money's
sewage
not-
drains.
To the mayor. I said, right, I understand if you collect grants and then you remove that money and you put it back into Narendra's coffers. I said, but I don't believe it's going there. I believe it's been stolen.
Well, that's a big claim to make. Yet Chrissy, who worked at Narendra Shire Council, seems to back it up.
What does it actually mean in practice that the council is not neutral? What does that play out like in the real world?
In the real world? Well, I actually read an article in the paper the other day.
It's not a lot to really say. Hey, it's all pretty clear how fucked up this corruption is, hey?
Yeah, do you want to like pause and give like a closing statement to this?
And one was for
There was one more thing in this doco that I really wanted to talk about. Oh, okay, sorry. You'll have to excuse me, but there's one part that I really
Sure.
have to show. I'm sorry. But then we'll end with that.
You should be
If it would
sorry.
load.
You should be on your hands and knees begging me for my forgiveness. That's what should be happening right now.
Okay. So, it's this lake here, right? This is apparently the sewage
and then pump it straight
testing
into
ground.
the Murrumbidgee, bypassing the holding pit entirely.
So this is the quote-unquote sewage holding pit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is meant to, like, treat the sewage. But
This is empty.
it doesn't, and they explain why.
Holding ground for sewage.
It's definitely
And the
not
river is right there.
Yeah.
And the river, the Murrumbidgee River, which goes upstate through New South Wales, is right there, next to a sewerage holding ground.
That's a little
Why is that?
disgusting.
And that was glowing green before with blue-green algae, which is extremely hazardous. Very, very hazardous. And leads to a shitload of fish kills.
No, I don't reckon they've been using it at all. Not at all.
And the EPA claims they're testing this. They're not. And the only testing facility they had is a room about like a brick shit room. About this big.
Is it just
So
like
if
someone like kind of like, you know, just dipping their hand in the water and going like, and then
It's
splashing it back?
okay, yeah. Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
So, anyway.
Yeah, I
in
had no
closing-
idea that Australia was, you know, this garbage. But I mean, it makes perfect sense. It's the same way here. Like, for example, my water, I've been looking into the water in my city. And my water has actually got like 300 times like the healthy limit for chloroform in it.
Holy
which,
shit.
Yeah, which leads to like cancer, depression, lethargy, etc.
Jesus.
So it's like, I mean, and you look at situations like in Flint, Michigan, where they've just got like, you know, lead in the water, a significant amount that even water filters can't get out all the way. So it's like clean water. It's like, this is something that I've been thinking about. It's like water, the most basic fucking thing all life on Earth needs to survive.
That you need to fucking live,
And
yeah?
somehow, tens of thousands of years of civilizational evolution, and we still haven't figured it out, right? Like, the idea that we're still dealing with, like, clean... Like, we should have solved this, like, 5,000 years ago. It's ridiculous.
So in closing, I'll say, I've mostly talked about the Nationals Party, so if you want a party for your town that fucks up your water, tries to cover up government scandals, fucks your economy, and corrupts your police, I know the party for you. The Nationals Party. With John Barilaro.
There you go.
Do I have anything else to say? Well, no, I don't really. I think I've covered everything I need to. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I'm going to cover myself right now, as you can see. I'm covered.
Well, thank you for having me on again, even though if I
Sure.
went a little overboard. I think
It's all good.
I think I demonstrated a lot of corruption, and that's kind of what I wanted to do.
I mean, there's nothing I like more than streaming other people's hard work. That is something I can say that I appreciate. For
it's
sure.
not much hard work. It's just checking YouTube, really. But whatever.
Well, I mean, we're using this guy's hard produced videos here with
true.
with the
Okay,
Mario and the Luigi and all that kind of stuff and the spaghetti. In fact, this may have inspired me. I might have spaghetti tonight. Actually, I might consider busting out the noodles. But anyway,
I had turkey bolognese earlier.
Say that again?
Oh, I said I had turkey bolognese earlier. It was fucking
You had
good.
what?
Turkey bolognese. It's like a healthier bolognese.
Anyway, where can people find you? Give me your plugs. Where can they find you?
Twitch.tv/Callmeliam.
Are there underscores or anything like that?
No, just that. Or twitter.com/Callmeliam_.
There you go. See, I knew there was an underscore somewhere.
Yeah, call me Liam's already taken on Twitter, and the guy barely posts, and I'm mad about it.
You should engage in economic warfare with that individual. Anyway, thank you for coming on. We'll probably air this in a couple hours after the main show. And so, yeah, thank you for watching us watch YouTube videos and comment on them with extrapolating details. Could you do me a favor and do a kickflip real quick with that skateboard in the background?
No, I can't do that. Sorry.
All right, maybe next time. Maybe next time. Anyway, thank you, folks. I'm going to stop the recording now.